I met Mr. Williams at his law firm, Brooks Pierce, some years ago. I knew that he was held in the highest esteem in the legal community. I knew that he was an alumnus of Wake Forest, and so he's a very likable man, and so I liked him from the start.
He reminded me a lot of Atticus Finch, To Kill a Mockingbird. Gregory Peck. He just kind of looked like it. He had this presence about him. I kept thinking when I was hearing him speak that I was watching a movie with Gregory Peck in it. That was my first impression.
There are a lot of funny stories associated with him. Some of them are true. But I tell you what is the absolute truth, is that I have never known a better, truer friend, a person with more personal values, with more family values, a person who's more devoted to the people he serves than James T. Williams.
He's just a great friend to people, and that's probably one of the things that attracts people to him. There are probably a lot of people who would say Jim Williams is one of their best friends, and that would be a true statement.
The consummate friend, the kind of person that you want to meet and you enjoy meeting, and exceeds really any kind of expectation you could have of him. He's a great family man.
I have been fortunate enough to have a wonderful father. He's a wonderful husband, wonderful grandfather, and been an excellent role model my entire life.
He's a great dad, very loving and kind, stern. He had rules, expected them to be followed, but very loving and kind and supportive of anything we wanted to do.
Jim is just an intriguing person, and so he's a wonderful conversationalist. He draws you in, and then I think Jim could talk about anything. And so that's the first thing that struck me, is that Jim's interests are so broad.
He's also got this sense of adventure. When you hear him talk about vacations, he's gone to Vietnam, he's gone to Africa, he's gone to Havana. I think that sense of adventure also is something that's pretty special about him.
He loves to learn. Jim and Barbara, they love to travel. Why is that? Because he is always learning. He's not content with the world as he knows it. He wants to explore. And whatever Jim takes up, whether it's biking or whether it's sailing or his deep love for photography, he does it to the nth degree. But it's that breadth of vision, the hunger to learn, to improve, to expand oneself that I think about when I think of Jim, one of the wisest people I know.
I first met Jim the first day of classes of law school in 1963. We spent a lot of time together in law school, and since then, going to meetings together, eating together. He likes to eat.
Anyone who's been around Butch realizes that if he's sitting close to you, he will be through with his meal before you ever get around to your meal. Asking him how he lost so much weight back there a few years ago, and he responded by saying he quit eating other people's food.
I knew that he had played football at Wake Forest, and he is tall, and you can see that he could have been and was a former offensive lineman on the football team.
He's a big man. There are not many people in the Atlantic Coast Conference that pushed him around, and I was happy to always be playing right behind him, either on offense or defense.
I asked him if he ever had an injury at Wake Forest. He told a story about he thinks he had a concussion once during his time at Wake Forest. He went back to the huddle, and they said, "Jim, I think you might need to go to the sideline." And he said, "No, I'm fine." But he was in the Duke huddle, not the Wake Forest huddle.
My favorite gift from my dad was the Joe Namath book on football. I read it cover to cover. I loved watching football. We watched college football and professional football growing up, and I loved sitting in my Sundays watching, and we loved coming over to all the Wake Forest games.
The story that's clearest in my mind about Jim is being at the 2007 game in Jacksonville where Wake Forest won the ACC championship against Georgia Tech. And that was a case of seeing a grown man cry.
Jim is incredibly passionate about Wake Forest. He's been able to create a common bond, a common voice for Wake Forest, and I think that passion comes through whenever he talks about his alma mater.
Wake Forest has never called on Jim Williams that he did not answer the call in any capacity.
He feels a great debt of gratitude to Wake Forest. I mean, he went there on a football scholarship. He's been around Wake for a long time, and I think he's very, very devoted and has a great deal of gratitude toward Wake Forest for the opportunity it gave him, and he's paid it back in spades.
I think that we see in Butch a devotion to a philosophy, a cause, a form of higher education that would take someone out of Durham in the land of the blue and the white and bring him to Winston-Salem, where he committed himself so thoroughly to the school, a fraternity, to football, to his education. And maybe I should have put those in reverse order, because clearly his education was prominent in his mind all the way through, though he excelled in these other areas as well.
I think he had such a love of Wake Forest that it instilled that in me as well. And it was my only school that I applied to. I applied early decision, and that was the only school, and I got in, and that was that. He's such a good role model, and he had such a love of the university that it certainly sparked a love of my own for the university.
You can see his eyes light up when he is on campus, when he talks about it, not just the athletics, but the school itself. You have seen him just thoroughly enjoy getting to know the students that are there now, and the relationships he's built with them. He talks about all the people that he's met, and you can just truly see this love of Wake Forest continue to build and grow.
Jim embodies the spirit of Wake Forest as well as anyone I know, and that's without overstatement. In the sense that his life really demonstrates what it is to be a professional for the public good.
An exceptional attorney, a courtroom attorney, but I've heard him say on so many occasions that he wants the law to be the friend of the people and not to be a controller of the people. So he would use the law as a positive force in people's lives.
Early on, I got into a discussion with him about the law and how he saw his vocation as a lawyer, and that was so deeply impressive. But his view of the law is as a very moral enterprise. He has a very high notion of what it is to be a professional and to serve the public and to serve his clients in ways that are in their best interest, not necessarily his own.
He's always given to our community in Greensboro, whether it was his church or school board.
I know he's been involved in a lot of nonprofit work in the Greensboro area for various boards and entities over there. So I don't think he says no very often when somebody comes and asks him for help. For over 50 years now, it's been my pleasure to have been a classmate and a good friend, and to have experienced a good bit of life with him. And I think whatever is bestowed on him is well deserved, and I'm happy for him.
I consider Wake Forest very, very fortunate to be able to recognize his many distinguished accomplishments and to bestow this recognition upon him. I'm honored to be part of that.